So, how do you want to structure your morning routine? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. Today is day 4 of the 5-day morning challenge, and it's all about developing, right? So, on day 1, we talk about the diagnostic, which is me just tapping into your why. Why did you want to have a morning routine in the first place or this particular season of your life? In day 2, it was about discover and allowing ourselves to discover our wants, needs, what's happening, and again going into the why is it necessary to have this right now, and what is it that we want to gain, what are our goals, what are our visions, and more importantly, what are some of those pieces, right, that we see that we want to have within our morning routine. And then in day 3, it was about defining, where we really chiseled down what those activities are, right? The types of activities we want, as well as being very specific about those activities, like digging down a little bit. So, not just journaling, but what are we going to journal? Not just I'm going to read a book, but what kind of book, what kinds of meditation, what kinds of podcasts, whatever it is. So, let's get into it. So today it's about development, right? What are we actually developing? And we're thinking more along the lines of the structure. So in my trainings around the morning shift, I talk a lot about 3 types of structures that we can have, because most of the time when we consider our morning routine, the morning rituals, or morning practice, and that's a video that I'm going to have to make too. What's the difference between the routine, the ritual, and a practice? But let's just stay with morning routine for now. Within our morning routine, usually we're thinking like, okay, well, if it's my morning routine, I got to wake up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. or what's that starter time? Usually before, everybody else wakes up, so I can get all these things done. If that's the way you want to go about it, go for it. I'm one that really focuses on these 4 things, right? And we talked about it at some other point through this series. It's about intention, right? Intentionality, nourishment, care, and meaning. As long as you're covering that, and that's in the development, that's in the discovery, the defining, and the development, right? And you're catering to that for yourself, especially if you are experiencing different seasons of change right now. Those things are important. One thing I want you to consider is fluidity over rigidity. Because a lot of the time when we consider, starting our morning routines, we think about, okay, I got to wake up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. or 6 or whatever the time is every single day, without always considering how our body feels at that time. Now, I know, right? There is some level of discipline, right? I'm going to wake up early every single day to do XYZ. And maybe you can and maybe you should. But for those of us, and myself included, someone who teaches and talks about creating morning routines a lot, I still consider how my body is feeling, because I think it's important for us to consider our circadian and ultradian rhythms. All right. So our circadian rhythm is the rhythm of that 24-hour cycle, right? The sun comes up and the sun goes down. So how our body is transitioning through sun up and sun down. But ultradian rhythm is our own natural biological rhythm. That's usually happening in these like 90 to 120-minute intervals. Those are those sleep cycles, our hunger cues. All of this is happening. Like, what time is that occurring? Because here's what I don't want to happen: for you to push yourself to wake up at a time that your body is totally against, and then you say, screw it, I'm not doing this anymore, or I'm not going to do it at a later time because now it doesn't feel like a genuine morning routine like some of these other people say. So I want you to do what's best for you. So 4 a.m. is good for you? Cool. 5 a.m. good for you? Great. 6 a.m. good for you? Awesome. 7 a.m., 8 a.m.? I don't care. I don't care. What I care about is how you feel. And how you feel is going to impact the rest of the day. So if we're building routines and rituals that support our lives and our seasons of change, we're also building them to support our day-to-day lives too. So if you wake up too early and it throws off your ultradian rhythm, then you're going to be exhausted and you're going to be more tired throughout the day. And that's not going to make you feel good. And that's going to have a spiral effect that is negative, right? A negative spiral effect. So, first, let's consider those things. What feels good to me? And then, if I am going to wake up earlier, now I got to consider my nighttime routine. Now I got to consider when I go to sleep. How much sleep do I need to feel rested? So, if I know I need 7 or 8 hours of sleep and I want to wake up at 5 because I want a chunk of time before the world wakes up, okay, let's strive for that. But then on the other end, right, we got to go to sleep on time. So just something to consider. Check in with yourself, right? Try a couple of different times and really see how you feel throughout the day. And then, yes, sometimes it takes a moment to get used to doing something different. So I want you to consider that. So, what is my circadian and ultradian rhythms? And what is the best time for me to start this morning routine? The other types of structure that I want you to really consider is not only what is it that you're going to do, because we talked about that in day 3, but what is the sequence of events, right? So when you first wake up in the morning, what are you doing first? Are you going to do movement? Are you going to read first, meditate first? Go downstairs or go out of your room and get, a glass of water. Like, what happens next? So start writing that down. What is it that you want to happen and then for what period of time and what makes sense? Again, I want you to think of 2 to 3 types of variations of this experience because fluidity over rigidity, right? Fluidity over rigidity. And allowing yourself to know that not every day is going to be the same. It's just not. It's unrealistic to think so, especially if you are in a season of small children. Okay. As someone who has small children, especially if you're in a season of small children, you don't know what's going to happen at night or in the morning. And so you have to give yourself some grace and think about what are a couple of variations. Again, going back to my TEDx talk, the power of one morning question, I tell everyone, if you can do nothing, if it's a morning that just is not giving what it's supposed to give, then we ask, what do I need today? And we allow ourselves to do kind of a body scan and a check in and try to answer that call for what that one thing is, right? And maybe it's something that you might get later on in the day, but go and do that in some capacity at some point throughout your day so that at least you did offer yourself, right, some nourishment and some care. Okay. So the questions that you would receive if you get the emails for the 5 day challenge. And again, if you aren't signed up for the official 5 day challenge, you can do so in the description below. So question number 1 is how long do you realistically need in order to fulfill all the things that are on your list, right? All the things that you wrote down in day 3, how long would it take to do all those things? You probably don't have all that time, right? So then you want to think, okay, well, how long do I realistically have? And what can I do in this time frame? And maybe I do certain things on these days and I do these things on these other days. You can create that kind of flexibility, right? Fluidity over rigidity. Our second question is, what are the types of variations, right? What are the long versions if I have a lot of time and the short versions for when I don't? So that way you can say, okay, today I'm really not feeling up to doing this, hour-long routine that I have, but I'm going to do the 20-minute version or the 30-minute version, right? So give yourself a couple of variations and then knowing that if nothing is working out the way that you plan, I'm going to ask myself that one morning question. So make sure that you take a moment, reflect on how long you need, what that can look like, and a couple of variations that you can pull from each day. If you want to be far more structured and you want to do the same thing every day, you can do that too. This is for you. This is your creation, your time, what you need in this season of your life. Something else that I want you to consider as things change, as your goals shift, as you feel like you did the work or learned what you needed to learn in this particular type of morning routine you have, allow yourself to also evolve it, switch up activities, change things along the way. Because what? Fluidity over rigidity, intention, nurturing, care, and meaning. All right. That wraps up day 4. Remember, after you write this down and you have another moment, give yourself a moment to be, breathe, and become. You can do some deep breath work because that always feels good. You can move your shoulders around, do a little head spin, whatever feels good for you in the moment. Give yourself that. It's a gift, right? Give yourself that gift today. But also make sure you come back for day 5 so that we can close this thing on out. If you're enjoying this series, please let me know. Let me know in the comments below. I would love to engage with you there. And if you're finding this series helpful, share it with a friend. And also subscribe because I have a lot more series coming your way. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in day 5.